Greetings, friends, and welcome to tonight's episode of the Late Night Intercourse with Chioma. It's always a pleasure to have this intercourse with you. Yes, this is that time when we share ideas, when we rub minds, when I bring you enlightening conversations on subjects that are within the family law sphere. And of course, your host as usual is Chioma ONYENUCHEYA-UKO, the Zest family lawyer. Welcome to tonight's episode. So tonight, we will be discussing something that I stumbled on. So actually, I saw a video recently, a few days ago. And while I do not have the credit for the production of that video, I unfortunately do not know the creator of the video. So because I do not know the creator, I cannot appropriately, pay that creator the right respect and give him or her the right credit for that video. Regardless, we're going to take the lessons from that video and share thoughts on them, discuss on those important lessons from the video. And these lessons revolve around the subject of who has ownership of children born outside marriage. Or maybe put differently, which of the two parents to a child has the right to the children that are born outside marriage? Is it the mother? Is it the father? Or do those children fall between the cracks? Well, I think maybe we should spare about a minute or so to look at the video I referenced, listen particularly, not just look, listen to that video I referenced, and after we've listened to that video, I will then continue with my thoughts on that video. But before we do that, please do me a favor and share this video so that your friends and your family can also learn just as we are learning too. Please help me share immediately. I'm grateful you've joined me, but please do me the duty of sharing so that others can join us too. And if you remember, at every episode of the Late Night Intercourse with Chioma, there is always data subscription prizes to be won. And as we're winning the data subscription prizes, the qualification criteria to win include that you shared this video on your wall. Otherwise, even if you eventually answer our questions correctly, you will unfortunately not qualify to win. So we will be taking that video right now for about a minute, and then we'll continue with the conversation. Please listen attentively.
The founder and pastor of a church has been kicked out of his own church by his own wife after the wife got newly married to a member of the same church. And to further crown it up, the pastor's wife changed the names of the 4 children originally belonging to the pastor to the name of her new lover, and also proceeded to change the name of the church to a new one. According to the reports, the pastor and founder of a church located in the Mafoluku-Oshodi area of Lagos State, whose name is Prophet Theophilus Ayodeji, has now dragged his wife to a customary court after his wife and the mother of his 4 children, whom they have been together for the past 23 years, suddenly decided to quit the marriage, got newly married to his own worker in the church, and moved out of the house with all the children, claiming that the children now belongs to the new husband. However, the wife explained to the court that the husband and father of her children has refused to pay a dowry for the past 23 years of marriage, and so she deserves the right to claim the children to whosoever she chooses. The wife, whose name is Chibu.
You listen to that, right? So, I mean, sadly, this is a true life a true life event based on the narration we heard, which says that it is actually a life matter in court. And if it is a matter that has gone to court, that means it actually happened between two people. And then the story tells us that this couple, these two people, have lived together for over 20 years. And in that time, they had children. And though they had these children together and living together, the woman eventually, after many years, left the marriage, or left the relationship, yes, left the union, more like, and got married to someone else. And not only did she leave the union to marry someone else, she actually went ahead to take the children of the marriage and say that they no longer belong to the man who she has been living with all those years, that those children will now belong to her husband or the new man who she just got married to. So that now threw up a poser, which I know that many people who saw that video may have also thought about, which I decided was important we discussed tonight. So I'll repeat the topic for discussion tonight, which is who has ownership rights, or yes, who owns the children born outside a marriage? That is our topic tonight. And in answering that question, I think it is important to first of all make the point that children are not in the realm of properties or things that you can own. So what it means is that the word own or ownership, which we have used in the topic, does not appropriately qualify for children. But I know that for conversational purposes, for easy understanding, it is a word that people use. But children are not chattels. They are not properties. They are not things you own. They are human beings. So while answering that question, bear in mind that ownership of a child is not in the same realm or in the same sense of ownership as if you own a property. No, nobody owns a child. A child is a human being, but of course, there are people who enjoy parental rights over a child, which of course corresponds with parental responsibilities. So in answering the question as to who has parental rights over a child, we will look at it first from the historical and cultural backgrounds or perspectives. Now, historically, before the advent of the laws are around the custody of a child, parental rights, and all of those, of course, we had received English laws. We have laws that we got from England. And those laws are the common laws, what was operational in England. And under the common law, a child had out of wedlock, a child had out of marriage, belongs to the mother. It is the mother of the child who will enjoy of that child. But then again, it's one of those cases of different strokes for different folks, which means that while in some communities it will favor the mother, there are also communities where every child belongs to the father, whether that child was had inside marriage or outside marriage. And the interesting thing to also note is that even in the communities where a child had outside marriage seemingly favors parental rights to the mother, that child may not truly be said to belong to the mother. The child, more often than not, belongs to the father of the mother, which means that child usually belongs to his or her maternal grandfather. Now, the psychology behind this in most of these communities is that children are usually had within a marriage. And where a child is had within a marriage, being that the African or the popular, the dominant African culture favors patriarchy or patrilineal heritage, those children will belong to the father. But where a marriage did not happen, those children do not belong to their biological father anymore in those communities. But because of the patrilineal nature or the patriarchy that exists, another man assumes parental rights over the children, and that man is the father of the woman who bore the children biologically, which is their maternal grandfather. And this is dominant across most communities in Igbo land. I know it varies, like I've mentioned. In some places, whether the child was born within marriage or not, that child, once acknowledged by the father, belongs to the father. So the father can exercise parental rights over the child. So that is if we are coming at it from the historical or the customary background, which is why I have said historically you have what operates under common law, and then you also have what operates under native law and custom. But while that is, and that applies in many cases, the other thing to consider is the rights of a child from freedom or to freedom from discrimination. Now, this is a constitutional right. It is not just a statutory right, but it is, importantly, a constitutional right. And under Section 4 to 6 of the Nigerian Constitution, nobody can be subjected to any form of discrimination, whether on the basis of their age, their gender, their birth circumstances, and the rest of those other considerations, including religious and the rest of them. And when the Constitution says nobody, it includes a child. So it means that under the Nigerian Constitution, you cannot discriminate against a child because of the circumstances of the birth of that child. So it does not matter that the child was had outside a marriage. That child is entitled to enjoying every right, every privilege, every benefit that other children enjoy. That is on one hand. Then on the other hand, we also have, I think it is Article 3 of the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child, which of course is a regional instrument that Nigeria has ratified. And that's Article 3 also prohibits anything that discriminates against any child on the basis including of their birth circumstances. And that is echoed strongly, reiterated, and clearly enshrined even in the Child's Right Act, Section 10, I think. So what all of this is saying in effect, excuse me, what all of this is saying in effect is that under these statutes, including the Nigerian Constitution, it does not matter that a child was had outside of a marriage. That child is fully entitled to every care, every provision that other children are entitled to, as provided in all of these statutes I have mentioned and a few others. So that then goes to say that though a child is born outside of marriage, the consideration will be where that child deserves the care, the relationship, the nurture, the affection, even the presence of either parent or both parents. That child is entitled to it, and it will no longer matter whether common law or the custom of a people prescribe otherwise. So take note of the constitutional and other statutory provisions on the right of every child to freedom from all forms of discrimination. Then the other thing will be the illegality of customs or traditions that fail the repugnancy test. What is the repugnancy test? The repugnancy test is a principle that says any custom, any tradition that is repugnant to natural justice, equity, and good conscience runs foul of legal parameters and is therefore unlawful and will not be upheld by the courts. Just as if those laws or traditions ran contrary to constitutional provisions. So anything that fails to live up to, good conscience, that fails to live up to equity, just as it also applies to children. If, for example, because of a custom, a child who ordinarily would have enjoyed a relationship with his or her father or with his or her mother is deprived of that merely because the custom in our place is that, then, if taken to our courts, once our courts look at it with the lens of the repugnancy test and it fails that consideration will be discountenanced and the courts will not take it into account in arriving at a decision as to who takes custody of that child or who exercises parental responsibility, which is, of course, parental rights over that child. And there are some cases that we can refer to in understanding that or even in discussing that. There is the case of Okoli versus Okoli, and in that case, one of the interesting things that happened was, it is a case that derives from Igbo native law and custom. Of course, by the names of the parties, you can tell. And in that case, what the court was looking at was there was no father who stepped forward to lay claim to that child. And where there is no biological father who makes that claim, the court says that the mother has rights to parental responsibility over the child. So in other words, the court in that instance recognized the right of the mother to parental responsibility of that child. Not necessarily on the basis of native law and custom, but because there was no biological father to lay claim. Then there was this other case of Owuma and Obodo. That case is a case that derives from, that happened around Idoma native law and custom. And in that other case, what the court considered was that though the man was seemingly not married to the woman, but the man had acknowledged the child, the man had also taken part in, some parental responsibility towards the child, and the man had also extended some compensation to the family of the girl. The court said that the man deserved the right to parental responsibility, though the child was had outside wedlock. That's outside marriage. So these things vary on a case-by-case basis. And though native law and custom to a large extent defines what you would usually see happen, just as in the story that we watched in the beginning, that narrative that we listened to in the beginning of this intercourse tonight, you saw that the woman who left that union and took along the children that she had in that union to her new marriage hinged her actions on the allegation that since the man did not pay her bride price, that he's not married to her. And if he is not married to her, by her own native law and custom, being an Igbo woman, that all the children she had during the pendency of that union through that man, that those children do not belong to the man, because that is the custom of her people. So that was her justification. But like I am saying here, for the court to arrive at a just determination of each case, including that case, the court will look not only at the native law and custom of a people, the court will importantly also look at that repugnancy test to be sure that that native law and custom does not run foul of that test. And in this case, what will be some of those considerations the court is likely to look at in seeing whether that particular case satisfies the repugnancy test? It will include the fact that maybe this man, during the pendency of his cohabitation with this woman, even if it is true that he was not legally married to her, whether customarily or statutorily, if he took active, verifiable steps in acknowledging the children, being responsible for them, giving them his name, and things like that, it may be difficult for that woman to persuade the court to now rescind that situation, reverse it, and suddenly say that those children no longer belong to him. So that may be one of the situations where you may find the court saying this matter fails, or this native law and custom being cited here fails the repugnancy test. But then again, if facts reveal that though they cohabited, the man did not extend any parental responsibilities to the children, then maybe the woman may be able to convince the court to agree with her that in the absence of bride price being paid on her, that her native law and custom will prevail. Mind you, if it were a marriage, other considerations will be what kind of marriage did they have. But of course, this is outside marriage. And as we all know, maternity is a matter of fact, and paternity sometimes is a matter of faith. Then that is that. The other will be the overriding, the paramount, the most important consideration of the law, of the courts at all times, which of course is the best interest of the child. That will be the next other thing in determining who owns a child. Of course, you know that I'm using the word own loosely, having explained that really, a child being human, nobody owns a human being, right? Thank you. So that said, that is the other consideration that the court will look at. What is in the best interest of the child? And in looking at the best interest of the child, you will now see the court, of course, considering statutory provisions. Section 1 of the Child Rights Act. Clearly, in fact, that's like, you know, when you are making a speech or when you are addressing a topic, a subject, when you are approaching a problem, you want to prefer solution to a problem, you confront it with the most critical thing. And in that case, the Child Rights Act actually starts in chapter 1 to clearly make the point that the best interest of the child will prevail at all times. I am paraphrasing. So what it means is that regardless whatever arguments the father or the mother may want to argue or put forward or proffer, at the end of the story, the court will ask itself, in view of all the facts that I have seen here, what is the best interest of this child? What satisfies it? What addresses it? So it then means that whether native law and custom says, whether common law says, whether this or whether that, what protects this child the most? What protects the welfare of this child, the interest of this child, the rights, the dignity of this child? What protects it more? What serves it best? And that is the pivot, the most critical thing, the paramount thing that the court will consider in arriving at a decision. So even in the case that we listened to, it means that for the court to arrive at a decision as to whether those children belong to the woman and can therefore be appropriated to the man who she is currently married to, the court will not only look at what that woman has said. The court will not only look at just the facts as it were. The court will ask itself the salient question as to what serves the best interest of those children, including sometimes asking the children themselves what is their preference. Where the children have come of age, have come of reasonable age where they understand issues and can give informed response. So that's one of the ways the court can determine what is in the best interest of the children. And interestingly, in Section 68 of the Child Rights Act, the Act now further says that for a person to acquire parental responsibility over a child from the courts, a father of a child born out of marriage can bring an application and apply for parental responsibility. And if the court is satisfied by his averments, by his affidavit, by his evidence, the court will grant him parental responsibility. Where the mother also brings an application and the court is also satisfied, the court will also do the same thing. But the Act also permits and realizes that these two adults can decide for themselves and reach an agreement as to joint parental responsibility over a child, albeit that the child was had outside a marriage. So what this now tells us is that where such a thing is to be determined by the court will look at who is bringing this application, what are the merits of this person's application, and on the strength of which the court may go ahead to grant that person that application as made. So it means that either a father or a mother on a case-by-case basis can be the owner. Remember, we're still using the word owner loosely, of a child born out of marriage. So it means that the court can award the rights of parental responsibility to either of them. And like I've also explained before, rights of parental responsibility also means legal rights of, legal parental rights. because a responsibility embodies also a right that inures to the person who is performing that responsibility, that obligation, or that duty. So, summarily, what I have said is that in a case such as the one that we opened with, that I cited, which we watched and listened to, it will depend on the facts of that case. As the court calls evidence and listens to all the evidence that are adduced before the court will now weigh them and decide for itself, based on that paramount best interest of the child, who has the parental responsibility over those children. Can the woman just decide and say, because you didn't marry me, those children are not yours, and bounce off? In some cases she may, but of course, depending on the facts of the case. And in some cases, she will fail. But overall, I think we should be guided by all of these constitutional, statutory provisions I have educated us on tonight, which all point towards the fact that a child, just like every human being, must be protected, and it's actually protected by law from all forms of discrimination against their person. And of course, this includes the enjoyment of other fundamental human rights, which includes the right to the dignity of his or her human person. And if any of this is likely to adversely impact on his or her sense of dignity, then the court will rise to ensure that the dignity of that child is defended. So, I hope we're all clear on what the law says on who owns a child born outside marriage. And this is the place where I now expect your questions, your comments, and if you would rather send in your questions or your comments through a direct call to us, please feel free to. And the number will be 090 80 000 633. I'll repeat, 090 80 000 633. You may also just send it as a comment in the comment section, and I will immediately look at it and respond if it is a question, or acknowledge if it is a comment. Thank you very much, Felix Enechukwu, for your kind comment. You say great job. Thank you, Felix. Leo Smart says no. So I imagine that Leo Smart is surprised at that news that we listened to, that report. Yeah, these are some of the things that we encounter in the course of meeting clients as a family lawyer. So it wasn't a shocking thing to me at all. Then, yes, oh, thank you so much, Big Sis Ogechabu. She says, well done, Jerry. Thank you so much, ma. And yeah, thank you, Dalisa. Says great work. Thank you, Jerry. Isaac says very fascinating and educating topic. Thank you, Isaac. Thank you so much. And Isaac, like I said earlier, by the mere fact of you sharing the reminder post I made about an hour to the commencement of this program, you automatically qualify for a data subscription, from me. Thank you so much for sharing that post. And for the rest of you, my wonderful viewers, for any time I make a post related to the late night intercourse, I think you'll do well to engage actively on it, share, comment, react, and those considerations may form part of qualifying to win a prize from me. You never can tell. Yes, and oh, Wichi, thank you, darling. Thank you so much. She says, well done, Chioma. Edith says, well done, ma. Well detailed. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Let me look at our other platforms to see the comments we are getting, to see if there is a question. Because, you know, this being intercourse, it means that it is a symbiotic conversation. You know, it is a union, a discourse between the both of us. That's what makes it an intercourse. I talk to you, you listen actively, and then you talk to me, and I also listen. Otherwise, it won't be an intercourse. So I'm checking to see if there's something you've said to me while I was talking to you, so that if I need to react to it, or at least acknowledge it, I'll do that. So I'm looking forward to your questions. And while you're sending your questions, will you be kind to just tell me where you're watching from? Are you in Abuja? Just say you're in Abuja. Are you watching me from, you know, Jos, from wherever it is? I'd like to know, please. Tell me that in the comment section. And it's not too late to share now if you haven't shared already. So please do me this huge favor and share, please. Thank you. So I'm looking to see if there are comments. I'm looking to see if there is a question I need to answer. And nobody has called in. Oh, my bestie of life, Adeze, thank you, darling. She says, very educative. Well done, darling. Okay, Daniel says he's watching from Abuja. Thank you so much, Daniel. Thank you. Please let me know, where are you watching me from? I want to see your reactions. I want to see your comments. Come on, this is supposed to be an intercourse. I hope you understand what that means. Come on, I talk to you, you talk to me too. So I'm looking to see what you're saying. I'm looking to see what you're saying to me. Where are you watching me from? Oh, beautiful. Yeah, you're watching from Jos. I see you. Thank you so much. Oh, Edith is watching from Benue State. Oh, my dearest big sis. Irene is watching from Port Harcourt. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm allowing you the opportunity to ask me a question so that I don't ask you a question that you didn't quite understand what my explanation was. Because when I ask you a question and it turns out you probably didn't get it, then that won't be too good. You understand? So please do me a favor and ask a question now, so that when I ask mine, you will not say, oh. So Leo Smart is still stunned. He's still really stunned. And he's saying, yeah, thank you, Leo. You're telling me you're watching from Enugu. Yeah, thank you so much. And he says, a great lecture indeed, but I'm amazed. 18 years without bride price? 19. He says 19 years without bride price? Sorry, I'm not wearing my glasses. I don't wear my glasses when I'm on the show. Though I need to wear my reading glasses, but I don't when I'm on the show because, I want to avoid light reflections. So, but, yeah. Leo Smart, that happens. There have been cases where a couple live together for many years, sometimes more than 30 years. And it is only after maybe the woman dies that you now realize that the man didn't even marry her from the beginning. And then the family of the woman in some instances will insist that before the man can exercise, spousal rights over the woman, including the right to maybe decide where she will be buried, he will first of all do what he was supposed to have done at the beginning, which is go and marry her before they will release the corpse to her. So, like I said, these are not strange to me because this is what I encounter on a daily. of course in different forms. So I'm not surprised that two people can live together as man and woman for protracted period without that relationship being formalized in a marriage. I'm not surprised at all. Is it the right thing? Well, I'll leave it to the choices of the persons involved. But what I always advocate for and try to enlighten people on are the implications of the choices they make. So if two people decide to live together without formalizing their union in a marriage, while it is not criminal, it is best that they are mindful of the implications so that they protect themselves in any eventuality that may expose them to those implications. It's their choice to make. So, Millie, thank you so much. Thank you, darling. You're watching from Abuja, yeah. And Ifi Ekeledo is watching from Port Harcourt. Thank you so much for watching. So I do not see that there is a question that I need to respond to. I do not see that there is a question I need to respond to. I do not see. I do not see. Let me check if we have a question on YouTube. Let me check if we have a question on YouTube. I have not seen a question yet. I have not seen a question yet. I have not seen a question yet. I'm just seeing reactions. I'm just seeing the love emoji. And please, if you're watching us on YouTube and you're not already following our channel, please subscribe. I'll be most grateful. Help me subscribe. Also share the channel with your friends so that they can subscribe and not miss any of these enlightening episodes of the late night intercourse with Chioma. Thank you all so much. So since we do not have a question from you and we only just have comments and reactions, I think this may be a good place where I ask my own question and see if we get a winner tonight or winners tonight. So what's going to be tonight's question? What's going to be tonight's question? Like I said, we already have one winner, and that is Isaac. He won not because he answered a question tonight, but he won because he was the first person who shared my reminder post, which I made about an hour to this program. So that tells you that you probably need to click the notification button on my page or my profile on Facebook. And if you click that notification button, and of course, the follow button too, so that you follow. Once I make that reminder post and you see it and you run with it, you may be the lucky winner next week and in subsequent episodes. So, yes, we're going to the winner for tonight. What will be the winning question? What should I ask you? What should I ask you tonight? What should I ask you tonight? Okay. I referred to some constitutional and statutory provisions in the interest of the child. And I mentioned a few, of those provisions. And by those provisions I mentioned, by those provisions you heard me mention. I'm not talking about the provisions you knew in your head already, because there are many things I didn't mention in the course of this intercourse tonight. I'm supposed to keep it as brief as possible to retain your attention, and then as long enough to cover the important points, just like a mini skirt, So I didn't talk about everything. If you give me a response that is not derived from what I spoke about tonight, then sorry, you won't be a winner. So from what I spoke about, I mentioned A right that every child has, which I said is provided for under the Constitution, under the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child, and under the Child Rights Act. I mentioned a critical right that every child has. So I'm going to make tonight's question very easy. Just give me, what is that right that I said every child is entitled to in Nigeria? That is the question tonight. So I'm looking to see who wins my prizes. And as usual, the prizes will be a 5,000 Naira data subscription for the star prize winner, and then consolation prizes of 2,000 Naira data subscription each. I reserve the right to the number of persons I want to extend the consolation prizes to. I may decide to extend it to one person, or two people, or three people, as the Spirit leads. So, what is that right that I mentioned, which I said to you is protected under these three statutes, or these three legal instruments that I mentioned? I actually also cited you the provisions of these relevant laws or instruments as they may be. So, what is that critical right that I said every child is entitled to? Please, can I hear it? Can I read it from you? Let's see who gets that first. I'm actively checking across the platforms. We didn't get a caller tonight. I'm actively checking across the platforms to see who responds first. I'm actively checking across the platforms. Let's see if we get a winner tonight, or if we get winners tonight. Let's see. Please, 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 I appeal to you again. Share this. I don't think it's nice for you to see something that you think will impact meaningful knowledge on someone else and you are unwilling to share it with them. Share it with the people you love. Share it with your family, with your friends. Share it even with random strangers, just like some of you are becoming my friends, from me sharing knowledge with you. Share this. Just click share so that more people will learn from this conversation. And while at it, click the follow button, click the notification button so that you are notified once I make relevant posts on the late night intercourse or on the other enlightening, discussions I bring on family law related matters. This is just to help you manage your domestic relationships better, your personal relationships. So share so that others will know, and also follow and click the notification so that you know once I make a post, so that you can make the necessary reaction that may win you a prize. You never can tell. And if you're watching us on YouTube, click the subscribe button. And feel free to also send us emails if you want to on latenightintercourse@gmail.com. And once we're off the show, we no longer take calls on the number that has been published. But you can send us a WhatsApp message on that same number, which is 09080000633. It's always a pleasure to read from you or to hear from you. So, I'm checking to see if we have a winner tonight. I'm checking to see if we have a winner tonight, so that we wrap it up and call it a night. I know that many of you are itching to retire to the warm embrace of your significant other, maybe your spouse. Some of you want to attend to some other thing after the intercourse. Or some of you may actually be considering a deeper intercourse than this. Whatever it is, let's get this done with so that you get on with it already. So, do I have a response? Do I have a winner? Do I have a winner? Edith says, right to proper welfare of the child must be guaranteed. Ha ha ha. Well, thank you for the attempt, Edith. Isaac says, right to proper welfare of the child must be assured, plus the supremacy of the child. Well, thank you for the attempt, Isaac. Leo Smart says, that right is, every child is entitled to all the provisions of his entitlements according to the child rights law. It means that whether he is born out of wedlock or not, he deserves parental care and all the entitlements of a child. Ah. You see why I was asking you to ask me a question earlier? If you had asked me a question earlier, you would have understood what I said better. While I was talking, I thought you understood me. Now that I've asked you a question, and none of you has been able to give me that right that I said every child is entitled to, which I mentioned the Child Rights Act, mentioned the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child, and mentioned the Nigerian Constitution. Of every other thing I discussed, I did not cite these three legal instruments, in fact, with their specific provisions on any other right that a child is entitled to. You are all talking about the right of the child to his best interest, to this and that. Some of those conversations, I mentioned only maybe the provisions of the Child Rights Act. It was only on this singular one that I cited three instruments to support. I will allow another 2 minutes to see if I'll get a winner. When I offer a prize to be won, it is my ardent wish that somebody wins it. While nobody wants to part with money easily, I want you to win this because I appreciate that you keep me company and actually have this intercourse with me. I appreciate that instead of doing all the other things you could be doing, you choose to be having this intercourse with me. I appreciate it. And this is my token, my gesture to show that appreciation. I want somebody to win it. Or I actually want people to win these prizes. So, like I said, 2 minutes, and if I don't get a winner, then we'll have no choice but to roll over the prize to another episode. So, I'm checking. 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 Okay, sadly tonight we didn't get a winner, and I think this will be a good place to wrap it up for the night. Except for Isaac, who won a prize before the commencement of the show, nobody else was able to win this prize. And for the purposes of ensuring that you fully understand what I said, which gave rise to this question. I had told us that under Section 10 of the Child Rights Act, under Section 4 to 6 of the Nigerian Constitution, and under Article 3 of the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child, every child is entitled to freedom from all forms of discrimination. I had said that to us, regardless of the circumstances of their birth. Of course, regardless of other considerations, including the circumstances of their birth. Sadly, none of you gave me that response. So, we'll reserve this prize and then push it over to another episode. For tonight, thank you so much for keeping my company and having this intercourse with me. I wish you a very restful night. See you at next week's episode. Same time, through the same platforms. Good night.